Before we start in on our agenda this evening or start our formal meeting, I'd just like to remember Clarence and his dedication and service certainly to the students, his community, and this board, along with other boards that he served on. We certainly will be missing Clarence a great deal. I know I will. His leadership, particularly when we sat in negotiations when he needed to line me right out. And I'll certainly be remembering him fondly. So it's going to leave a big hole in our board. So I just want to take a moment and remember him. And I know I'm sure for the Middletown Springs board, it's certainly going to be difficult not having him with you.
Well said. Thank you, Lisa.
So as we move into our meeting, the first is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented, or are there additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Lisa, I have two additions under my finance report. It's to approve the food service contract renewal and approve FY22 meal prices.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Is there any public comment? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak this evening? Hearing none, we will move on to the minutes of April 28th. A motion would be in order to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Lisa.
Second by Lynette. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Approval of warrants. You receive warrants within your email. All questions should be directed to Lewis. A motion would be in order to approve the warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Superintendent's report. Chris?
Thanks, Lisa. You've heard most of this already, but I'll just go over a couple items. So we are finishing up the SBAC testing in all of our schools. Hopefully by the end of this month, early June. We'll also be doing the Vermont science assessment as well. So once we have those scores, probably in the fall, late summer, fall, we'll start to kind of process them and have a report for the board in terms of what things look like. We'll have a better picture of the impact of this year on our students and their academic progress. The education recovery plan, we have submitted phase 1. It has been approved. The committee has been meeting, the subcommittees have been meeting, working diligently on phase 2. Phase 2 will be submitted June 1st, and then we'll wait back to hear the results of that. But we do expect that to be approved. I do want to, publicly thank the committee, the administrators and staff, and all the people who've been helping out. It has been a lot of work, but it's looking pretty good as right now. So I also want to just talk a little bit about next year. I know that there has been some concerns. I know saw like front page Rutland Herald about the 80%, what that might mean. I know I talked to the admin team about this. Currently, we do expect, Governor Scott at some point in time, the next couple weeks to, shift to the July 4th. In terms of what that means for guidance, we are waiting to see. I know that the superintendents asked Dan French last week about that, and it was kind of a muddled explanation in terms of what may happen. So hopefully we'll get a little more clarity this week. But as soon as we know we will, inform you, the parents, the staff as well. I know that for those of you know that if the governor would rescind his state of emergency order, the strong and healthy year, the AOE guidance would technically go away and would kind of shift back to CDC guidance. So we're kind of taking a look at what that might mean for schools. While it's a good thing for Vermont, I think it might cause some headaches for us as we move towards the end of school. But like I said, we'll keep you posted. As it's been all year, it is a day-to-day process, and when things happen, we will quickly shift, pivot, and make sure that schools are safe for both students and staff. What else do we have here? So vaccines. As we know the vaccines are available for all students age 12 and older. So that's something like I said before. If people are interested, obviously, go to the Department of Health website or contact school nurses for more information. A couple other things, just school meals. I say this every month. I just want to remind everyone that we will be providing school meals for any interested families over the course of the summer. So please reach out to building principals or classroom teachers for more information, and teachers can direct you to the building principals. I know I was going to mention something about the summer academic and enrichment programs, but we'll be presenting that a little bit later on in the meeting tonight, where the building administrators can talk a little more in detail about what their plans are for the summer. So, thanks.
Any questions for Chris? All right. Assistant Superintendent's report, Lisa.
Good evening, everyone. I know you got a chance to see my report in advance. Nothing new, just a few highlights. The recovery planning process and the ESSER 2 and 3 grant process have been really key focus areas for me. Working on moving forward with those initiatives and also getting things lined up staffing-wise, program-wise, application-wise. So we hope to submit a final draft of our recovery plan next week. We're just working on the finishing touches, and we look forward to bringing that to you in more detail in the future. Also, we have been doing a lot of work for the CFP grant, the Consolidated Federal Program Grant. It's that time of year where we're getting ready to submit our application for next year and preparing all of the required pieces from the agency around that work. Our 2 comprehensive support schools are also already working on their investments and planning for next year and budgeting as well. So supporting that process for them. And in addition, the mentoring program, teacher mentoring program is wrapping up. I don't talk often about it, but tonight I just needed to say a huge thank you to all of the teachers who served as mentors this year. On top of COVID and everything that implied for them, for shifting their own teaching practice and being learners on the go, they also shepherded through some of our new teachers and new to our district teachers and provided critical support to them during just an incredibly challenging year. So I'm very grateful for all of their work and support, and our 3 mentor coordinators this year, Alina Wehoff, Beth Coughlin, and April Morse, also were instrumental in implementing support for the mentors and making sure that assignments were made and they got through the year successfully. So just a great critical support for our new teachers and new to us teachers. We really appreciate everybody's help. I think I'll stop there, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them, of course.
All right. Any questions for Lisa? All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to personnel resignations. You should have that in your packet, letters along with the list. There are 6 listed on the front page: Robin, Alfonso, Kevin, Amanda, Alexis, and Michaela. A motion would be in order to accept the resignations.
I'll make that motion.
I will second. Seth will second.
Any questions about the resignations? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Contract recommendations. That should be the next in your packet. And there's a list broken up, and we'll do it by grouping. The first group is professional staff. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Are there any questions about the new hires, how existing employees are moving. All right, moving on to support staff. Any questions? Extracurricular. For the IAs for summer school, I'm presuming that those are already lined up with particular students.
Those are actually, I think, Lisa, those are the general ed programming ones for summer programming.
Okay. And how then, I guess, so someone's going to actually be a site coordinator, and so they're going to be doing two jobs. How is that? How are you differentiating? Or are you paying this person like $40 an hour?
Yeah, I don't, that would be the building principal, because those are positions they've put forward.
So at least I know Kristen's not here tonight due to another commitment, but I do believe that the individual will be overseeing the program, the scheduling, paperwork, and they'll also be working as an IA as well, like a support, like a tutor during that time. I can, reach out to Kristen and see if she can provide a little more clarity, but that was my understanding when it was explained to us.
So like it's going to be 10 hours site coordinator, 20 hours IA. I mean, it seems weird. Like you're going to, it just one person, same position, same building, same.
I can answer that
program.
question. So there's an instructional program in the morning for, I think it's 3 or 4 hours, in which he's working as an IA in that program. And then there's the enrichment program in the afternoon, which he's the site coordinator for the afternoon program. So he's only being paid the site coordinator salary for the afternoon and regular IA in the morning.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right. So Lynette.
If I could, Louis, you can answer this. The salaries that are posted, that's what they will be next year. Not like the last time when it was this plus percentage. These are actual.
So the salaries listed under the salary recommendations or under the contract recommendations are their current salaries. Which positions are we referring to specifically?
I'm going to guess professional staff.
Yes, that's for sure. Yes.
Okay.
Some of them say FY22 increase. And they all say actually FY22. So those should actually be the actual numbers.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That answers it.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, a motion would be in order to approve professional staff, support staff, and extracurricular.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. For information in your packet, there is a list of existing vacancies, which is a pretty thick packet of existing vacancies. Are there any questions about that? Hearing none, we'll move on to finance. Louis.
Okay, so I have a few items to go over tonight, all of which were sent in the packet this afternoon. So there was a report with details attached to it. It was all the same attachment. So the first item is our contract renewal. So we currently use Aladdin, also known as Lexington Independence. They were bought out. We went out to bid. Aladdin was the winner, but over the course of the last year, I believe it was, they were bought out by Lexington, which is the parent company. So I'm looking to approve the contract for next year. We went out to bid with the first year being FY19, and according to the state rules, we're allowed to do 4 one-year renewals, which will take us through FY23. There's a ton of work and involved with going out to bid, so it's not something you want to do frequently for food service. It's not a typical bid process. And I have not heard any major complaints regarding the food service. I check with the administrators in the past, and we have regular conversations about food service. So given the satisfaction with the service and the contract financials, I'm looking to approve them again for next year. They are recommending a 3% increase in their current rates. The CPI is 3.8% for meals away from home. So our increase is a little bit less than the current CPI. And those prices are the second page of my attachment. So this year we're looking at ending the food service with a surplus of $20,000. And our estimate for next year would be at least break even with possibly a surplus to the tune of the same amount. They service Rutland Town and Corey Valley. Wellspring does their own food service, but Wellsprings has used Aladdin services in the past, especially during summer months or during breaks, as well as anytime that there's any questions or anything that they need expertise. Let's see. We're looking at operating next year under a free meals program as well. It's going to be a little different program. It's not the summer meals. It's called Seamless Summer. We're still waiting on details from the state, but all students in school should be able to eat for free as well next year. That's the current plan. We're still, like I said, we're still waiting on guidance. Hopefully that doesn't change.
And what about if we had remote students? They'd still fall under this again next year, correct?
So I do believe they have to be in school next year to receive meals. I'm not positive about that. We've never used Seamless Summer, and it's not a program that's frequently used in Vermont. So we don't have all the particulars about it.
Okay. Tina, did you have a question or comment?
I did, thank you. I was just curious from maybe the principals that are on the call that have familiarity with Aladdin, if they are happy with it, not happy with it. I'm okay with keeping things the same this year, but if we are up to go bid anyway next year, I was just curious what our thoughts were right now.
Do you want us to respond like popcorn style or?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, Christy, popcorn.
All right,
You
let's start.
start.
I've had no problems with them. We've been satisfied, especially during this remote piece. They've been very flexible, organized, and the meal quality has been very good for Proctor Elementary School.
Elizabeth. Oh, Elizabeth doesn't use it.
We
I'm
don't, but I
sorry.
will comment that when we've had to use them, we were very pleased with how we were able to access them.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah, we've had them. This is my 13th year at Pontley High School. I think they've changed names about 5 times over that 13 years too, but we've had them. They've been great. You know, if we do have an issue with them, they take care of it right away. So we have really no complaints at Pontley High School.
Okay. Jay?
I guess I'm going to ditto what other folks have said. I've worked with a number of vendors over the years, and this vendor seems to do a very good job. And speaking to what Joe said, if I have an issue or a question, or would like to see something different, they are more than happy to try to find a happy medium or follow us. So pretty good
Okay.
vendor.
Sarah?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. We've had an okay experience with the food service. I think it's been pretty tough this year, given everything has to be transported to classrooms, so there hasn't been much variety. So I think the kids would love for the salad bar and some more options to come back, but they've done a good job given the circumstances.
Joe, you had something else to add? Oh, your hand is up. Okay. Does that answer your question, Tina, or did you have something more you wanted to add?
It does answer my question, but I find it interesting. I have 3 kids that have eaten at Rutland Town, and they have been very unimpressed with Aladdin. Their choices are limited, as Sarah had mentioned. The food is sometimes cold. The food often, or not often, but quite a bit, doesn't match what was on the menu. So they're disappointed when they get there and they don't have the same choice that they thought they were going to have for that day, that kind of thing. So it sounds like maybe it's more of a Rutland Town problem and not a supervisory union wide one. So maybe that's something we can work on with just the staff at our school to try to make that a little bit better.
And was that something primarily from this year, or is that something from existing years?
It's been at least the last 2 years that I've heard a lot of griping and complaining.
Yeah, I think, school food's a little bit like airplane food. Eric, you had a question or comment?
Oh, I just had a question for Lewis. Basically what the reason is behind the cost increase.
So their cost increase is just due to inflationary reasons. So the cost of food goes up each year. So they're looking to increase. The cost of labor goes up. Minimum wage has increased. Benefits have increased. So they're looking to increase the price of their meals to cover their increase in cost.
Okay.
And so just based on all the comments that the principals have made and board, I'd like just to add a few things. As far as the salad bar goes, I know that's a question that I've gotten from the food service director as to whether the salad bar will be an option next year. I think they would like to bring it back. I know many of us parents would like to have it brought back, and principals. So that's a question I think we'll need to discuss internally to see if that's based on guidance, if that's allowed, and hopefully we can bring that back because I know it gives a lot of healthy options to the students. The other thing I'll just add too is, and I think Lisa made a good comment too. I mean, we're making meals for $3.69, so it is. I mean, it's not going to be a gourmet meal that a lot of kids like, unless we're willing to subsidize the program to have high quality meals. There's only so much you can do especially in our smaller schools, to have really good options and meals that are high quality. I know Wells Springs, the board has made a commitment to subsidize that program pretty significantly to offer higher quality meals, and that has been a commitment of the board for many years. And they subsidize that program anywhere between $50,000 to $70,000 in a year, where we're looking to break even, and possibly we've broken even, and this year we're making money due to the reimbursement rates for Corey Valley and Rutland Town. So there is a cost to a higher quality meal and to having more options. And if that's something that the board supports, definitely we can look at that for the future of making more options and higher quality, and finding out what that cost is going to be.
I would hope it's not airplane food, because you only have to eat that for a day. These kids are eating this food every day, 5 days a week. And that's among the reasons it's been an important issue for Wells Springs. And so many of our families, this might be the best food they get all day.
I've eaten at the schools many times, and I don't think that the food is awful. I don't know if every school participates, and maybe Christy wants to speak to. We do a farm to table, farm to classroom kind of program that allows students to, I don't know, try different foods that maybe you wouldn't at home. And I don't know if every school has that opportunity, or I know that was a grant program, or everyone's participating in that. Are other schools doing that? I mean, because that allows an option also to try different foods. So, Tina?
I just wanted to thank Meredith for her comment, because I did appreciate that. It shouldn't be just like airplane food, but I do understand cost is an issue. However, we're spending about the same amount, maybe slightly less than what we were when we had other companies where the food quality was better for about the same price. And I think that's what my concern is. They, just even not so much the variety as, which is, I think, a little lacking, but also the temperature and the, how, I don't know, how cooked things are sometimes. Those are often the comments I get. It's not so much that it's tomato soup, it's that it's cold tomato soup, things like that.
And so that seems like, Lewis, maybe that's a conversation that needs to take place within Rutland Town, because I'm not hearing that from other school or building principals. So maybe that's an employee issue with in Rutland Town in the kitchen. Is that a possibility that's where that's the problem is?
Each building has their own cooks. So there is a director that manages all the buildings. I mean, I can definitely look into that and speak with the director. It's always helpful to get feedback so that we can't resolve issues if they don't know about them. So definitely students should talk to their teachers or administrators so that if there's comments, or parents can, so that those comments and feedback could be brought to the kitchen staff at that building. Or if it's not just a building issue, if it's a whole SU issue, then we could bring it to the higher level.
Right. Michael?
Another way to gauge it is to look at the waste, see how much waste there is and what kind of waste there is.
So what is the pleasure of the board? Would you like to go with Lewis's proposal of the 4 1-year renewal out to FY23? Is the board thinking something different?
So just to clarify, I'm only looking for a 1-year renewal. I can only do 1 year at a time.
I mean, 1 year. That's what I meant. 1 year renewals for 4 years, but 1 year renewal. Yes.
I will make that motion, and Rutland Town will discuss it, and we'll see what we can do on our end, Lewis.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. So
And
the next item is the meal prices for FY22. There is a separate sheet in the packets, page 3, which has the current meal prices and the proposed meal prices. As I stated earlier, hopefully the student meal prices is a moot point, and that all students will be eating for free. But just in case, I just want to have these prices set. And then for the adult meal prices, I have a 10-cent. Well, all of the prices have an increase. Is 10 cents for lunch for student and adults, and for breakfast it's 5 cents for the students and 10 cents for the adults, which is approximately 3% for all of the meals.
All right. Questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the increases as stated for 22.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Lewis. Is that it, Lewis?
Nope. So the last piece is financials, which has 3 different sections. So it's the remaining pages, and it's the bottom section of my report. So the first one is the general fund forecast, which is as of this week. So I'm currently estimated that the general fund for the SU is going to have a surplus of approximately $126,000. And the 2 main reasons for this is that we have an on-field technology position that the board decided not to fill earlier this year. And then the second reason is our grant indirect revenue is higher than we budgeted and anticipated. And that's just due to more grants. So we're allowed to pull a certain percentage out of each grant to cover, which is indirect cost, which would cover, say, business office expenses, superintendent expenses, any admin type expenses. And so we have to apply for a rate each year with the state. The state approves a rate, and then we just put that expense into the grant budget. So currently we have $56,000 that we've raised so far this year in indirect cost that we've pulled from the grants. These are federal grants, and I'm anticipating that we'll end the year with approximately $70,000, which is about $45,000 over our budget amount. So that's $126,000 surplus in the general fund. Some of that surplus will be offset with our Medicaid deficit. So we have a Medicaid budget. We raise revenue at the SU when Medicaid eligible services are performed in our schools. We've seen a big decrease in revenue since COVID has hit, and that's due to less services being done in schools because of students being remote or students. So last spring, when everybody was remote, that it really took a deep dive, and so our revenue in the spring was only like $10,000 as opposed to $50,000 it has been in the past. And this year we're seeing a decrease as well due to Wednesdays being remote, as well as many students in all of our schools being remote, especially some of the high needs students, which drives this revenue. So we've seen a decrease of about $50,000 in revenue this year. So I'm estimating that we're going to end our Medicaid year with a $48,000 deficit. And we use Medicaid funds to fund a number of different things. We fund our early ed coordinator, our Medicaid clerk who does all of the billing. We fund professional services for assessments such as MAPS, Jump Rope, Illuminate. Those are programs that are used by the schools within the SU. We fund 25% of all of our school psychologists. And then we fund a small portion of some of our central office admin. So we fund 12.5% of our director of student support services, our assistant director, and then we fund 13% of our assistant superintendent and 20% of our special ed admin assistant. So this deficit will run into next year as well, just because I don't anticipate an immediate reversal and to go back to pre-COVID levels. So I think when we look at budgeting for FY23, we may look at needing to move some of this expense back to the general fund, such as maybe the MAPS or Jump Rope, Illuminate, stuff like that. We should be able to absorb some of this expense without an increase in the general fund budget due to an increase in grant revenue that we're seeing from those indirects. So that $45,000 increase or variance that we are seeing this year, we should see that continue into the next few years with ESSER funds. We can pull 10% out of ESSER funds, and we're getting a 1.6 million in ESSER 2, so that's 162,000, and we're getting 3.6 million in ESSER 3, so that's about 360,000. So we can pull money out of that to cover admin expenses, indirect and direct. So I think when we look at FY23 budget, we'll need to move some of this admin expense back into the general fund so that we're not running a Medicaid deficit. So when you look at the $48,000, we should be between that and the general fund, still be running a surplus of about $75,000. And then the last piece is the special ed forecast. We're currently estimating that we're going to end the year with a surplus of approximately $272,000. That is considering that disallow amounts are at budgeted levels. We know right now that we're seeing an increase in disallows, and Christine Cam and her team is still reviewing those to try to make them as accurate as possible, while at the same time decreasing the disallows. So any disallows that are above budget will increase our special ed surplus, but then the offset will be a bill back to the local level. But given where we are with our special ed surplus, there should be more than enough to cover any disallows that we have that are above budget, and there should not be a negative impact to any local district when you take the two and net them together. Christine, do you have anything you want to add to that, and then we'll take questions?
I mean, I can just, so what we are working through is what are the pieces that have to be billed to the general ed or the local budgets, and what part are actual special ed expenses, because we need to break those out. And so that's where what we're finalizing and making sure that is absolutely, as accurate as we can get it based on all the information we have. But we are seeing, as Lewis said, it kind of, it moves one needle one way and the other way. So some's going to go to the local and some will go back to special ed.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, I have a question about the Medicaid eligible services. That applies to special ed students, correct?
What the billing is based on special ed services. What we can spend the money that comes in from Medicaid has to be for general all student population.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions for Lewis?
So just to add to what Christine just said, so the piece of the salaries that we cover with Medicaid funds for Christine Cam and Kim Stedman and Jan Hughes, who's the special ed admin assistant, we're looking to cover the pieces that are not covered by special ed. So there's a portion of their work that is not working with special ed students. Could be EST, it could be just regular ed students, it could be homeless, so whatever it is they're working on that's not special ed related.
Right. I oversee all the homeless, so I'm the homeless liaison for the district. So anything that has to do with that, the 504, those pieces at the SU level. And so those parts of when I work on those things, or that part of my job, cannot be billed to special education because that's for all students.
Okay. I would just ask that if we're going to be looking to move pieces to the general fund, that when we start building the budget, that's information that we have right up front when we start working on it. If, whatever those recommendations are that have been grant funded and you are suggesting moving those to the general, that we have those when we start building the budget. I think that would be helpful for us to have that information right at the beginning.
Yes, they would be included in the first draft, and they would definitely be included on the summary of changes.
All right. Any questions, comments? All right. Anything else, Lewis?
And that's all for tonight.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to policies. You have the policy in your packet Is this first reading or second reading of this?
This is a first read.
Okay. So this is just a first read, so everyone has it, and it'll go out then to all the other boards as well, and we'll do a second read at the next meeting for adoption. Were there any questions, changes, comments, deletions that you'd like to make to this before it gets sent out to other boards or send it back to the policy committee? All right. Thank you. Old business. The GRCSU conversion scale. You have that in your packet. Lisa?
Good evening again, everyone. So we had brought this to the board the end of the summer, I believe, as a overview of what our plan was to develop a conversion scale to serve a few purposes. Primarily for moving forward, it's to provide families with a kind of quick visual understanding of how a standards-based report card on a 4-point scale compares to more traditional grading systems that they've seen in the past. The second purpose was to allow us to consistently and uniformly convert scores from external agencies or organizations into our system for the purpose of transcripts. So for example, if a child attends a high school or takes a course somewhere where they grade with letter grades or a 100-point scale, and they want that course needs to appear on their high school transcript for credit toward graduation or proficiency demonstration, that we could convert that to be able to calculate their GPA. And an additional reason was to go back and in one of our high schools, Proctor High School, we had an older grading system that had been in use for our current class of seniors. They had 1 year, 2 years, 8th grade and 9th grade, that were EPMP. They were letter codes instead of number grades. And we wanted to be able to also convert those for the purposes of calculating a GPA for them. So we did, as I discussed in August, a lot of research. We looked at grading scales from other schools within our region, within the state. We shared information about grading scales from technical centers. We looked at national scales that are used by organizations that focus on standards-based or competency-based grading. We talked to college admissions counselors and had them review the conversion scale and give us feedback on it to try and make sure that it looked aligned to them and something that would be expected or anticipated for a proficiency-based system. So we did a number of different activities at that time and then developed the scale. We have been using that scale since the fall, and then through further discussion with both Chris and Lisa Miser, it came sort of to the forefront that we really probably should have had you all vote on that in August when we presented it. But we never did that. We presented it for information and comment and then moved forward with it without a formal vote. So we wanted to bring it forward tonight to request that you consider that action and or to answer any final questions that you have before you do so. Chris, was there anything else you wanted to add about that?
Nope, that was good. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Tina?
Thanks. I was not on the board in the summer, but I was at the meeting when you presented it, and I love the idea. I didn't have all the notes on it, I would say. But one of my main concerns about this system is that the way that program works is they are building proficiency from the beginning of the year till the end. So sometimes, like in their fall report card, or even their winter report card, they haven't met proficiency yet. So their grade doesn't quite reflect that. Or say they did very poorly on something that was weighted heavily in the fall, that still carries through their grade for the rest of the year. So it makes it kind of impossible to gauge that they actually have B's, A's, whatever for the other quarters. So I like the idea of giving it, something that is a little bit easier for parents to understand when, because we were all raised on letter grades. But at the same time, I'm not really sure if it reflects what the students are actually doing. A lot of tests and papers that they are given are only really out of 3. So they're only getting B's according to your scale on those things, even if they got 100% on them. So it's really tricky to hand this out to parents and show it to them when I'm not sure it totally reflects what's going on.
Yeah, Tina, I appreciate those comments. And I think what you're getting into is really the implementation of this conversion scale as opposed to the scale itself. And, we've talked in previous board meetings, all of us here, about the need for consistency and calibration across scoring, across teachers, about providing opportunities for students to demonstrate above exceeding proficiency. They have to have an assignment that's above the standard to show that they're above the standard. So that needs to be part of what happens, in classrooms on a regular basis. And we have to continue to look at those things. In terms of the does not show growth comment, I think that is a shift with proficiency grading, and that you don't want a teacher or a student in the position of a teacher saying, well, you're doing great for this standard at this time of the year, so I'm going to give you a 3. But then as the year goes on, if you don't make progress on the same standard, I'm going to give you a 2 because you're not meeting the increasing expectation as we move forward. And it's very complex, but to me, that is exactly the kind of thing that families should be talking about at our twice-a-year parent conferences. You can log on to Jump Rope at any time to see where your student falls, which is a great way to know that it's time to talk to the teacher and see, hey, what's going on? Teachers can include information about student growth in comments. So they can say on track for this time of year, or things like that help parents understand where students are. So there are other ways that we can convey growth in addition to that. But truly it should be, and the way proficiency systems are designed is it's your performance against the standard. And whether you should be there in October of 2nd grade or you should be there in June of 2nd grade, it's still the same standard that we're measuring performance against. And as families, I think we need to do some more family education. We've been working on an informational brochure to go out with this conversion scale to try and help families understand that you should expect to see more 2s at the beginning of the year and then more 3s as the year moves on with a particular standard. Also, when you talked about that piece in Jump Rope, the only standards that have scores at any point in time are standards that have been taught that far in the school year. So because the way that Jump Rope works is when a teacher puts in an assessment, that's what triggers the system to report a score for that standard. So there won't be any scores for anything that they haven't actually covered in class. And you can know that if it's on their Jump Rope report, it means that they've addressed this standard in class and that's how they assess the child. Jump Rope also has what's called a decaying average. So a score in the beginning of the year, the score counts less and less and less and less and less over time as there are more assessments on that standard. So the newest score is the one that is the heaviest weighted in that system, and actually is calculated at a higher percentage toward their overall score than any of the earlier scores. So if you have multiple tests and quizzes and projects along a particular standard, again, as you're showing progress and growth by the end of that unit of study, you should have a really clear sense of mastery on that final grade, and it will be worth way more than the grades at the beginning.
Tina, I'm going to let you follow up.
Thanks. That's interesting about the decaying score. I did not realize that, and that's really great. And I personally understand that, earlier in the year, they may be at a 2 until they've, fully learned that concept, at which point it can go up. But that's kind of what I mean by showing that conversion to grades, I think that's going to make a lot of parents really angsty, thinking, oh, my kid's only getting a B or a C, and I like that in the elementary school, there's a benchmark kind of grade, so to speak. But even the benchmark, I don't know. I still don't think it's quite equivalent to that letter grade, especially early on in the year.
It's not intended to be a perfect equivalence because the systems are not meant to, be laid out side by side, as they're meant as sort of standalone systems. But we feel like we've gotten a lot of feedback from people over time that they're like, well, here's what I know. How come you can't explain this to me in terms that I understand already? And, this is our best attempt to try to make it more easily explainable for people with grading comparison to grading systems that they're formally familiar with. But it'll never be a perfect alignment. They weren't designed together. So
thanks.
Eric?
I might have asked this when it first came to the board, but this applies to K through 6, correct?
This is K through 12.
Okay.
Any other questions? I think the conversation actually needs to start with the teachers before it goes to the parents. I think a significant issue is the standards and the indicators that we're picking and putting in jump rope. And it's interesting to talk about the decaying average because you could have a teacher that only does 2 handouts for one particular indicator. And if you got, 1.9 on the first one and a 4 on the formative, you're going to be stuck with that because that's the only 2 assessments that they did. And isn't proficiency really where I'm at the end? Not where I was when I started, the 1.9. It's the 4 where I ended. And that's always been my issue with the decaying average. I think that is an awful, awful, awful piece of jump rope that you have that in there. I think it punishes kids that don't do homework or don't hand in work that teachers still require. I think as much as we like to say we've jumped into the deep end of the proficiency pool, you are still on both sides of the fence, even with this little conversion table. So I think that the conversation needs to start within the building before it goes out to the parents, because personally, I don't think we have a cohesive continuity across the classrooms for you to share out about what it is. And I think the decaying average, that has to go away. That is so anti-proficiency. I don't even know why we continue and have a program that has that in place.
So Lisa, I just want to address 2 pieces there. The first is there are 2 kinds of scores that go into jump rope. One are formative and one are summative. And I know you've worked with this a little bit more than some of the other board members. So I just want to be clear on the explanation for them as well. So formative assessments are in jump rope. They have to have some kind of value. So they're scored on a 0.01%. So homework assignments, handouts in classrooms, classwork activity, anything that is not considered a significant final assessment, summative assessment of student work, has a very, very, very minute percentage that it contributes to an overall score in a class. The summatives are supposed to be performance tasks, mastery-based performance tasks. So it might be a project, it might be a performance, it might be a presentation, it might be a more traditional assessment or an essay, a lab report, something that is very significant that really assesses a student's ability to perform against a specific standard. I agree with you that we need to make sure that there are multiple opportunities for students to demonstrate their proficiency in those areas. And part of the way that we've tried to approach the proficiency system is that students should be allowed to revisit assignments with teachers and find alternative ways to demonstrate proficiency as they move through. And if they didn't on their first assignment, they should be provided with another opportunity to do so. That's the whole point of Act 77 and flexible pathways, and all of the work that has been gone into proficiencies in the state of Vermont, is to try and make sure that students can show what they know in a way that makes sense for that child. And it may not be what the teacher originally designed as an assessment. They may need to look at that again. Do we have work to do on that? Yeah, absolutely, we do. And I think the more consistent we get in getting all of our schools onto the same system really allows us to invest a lot more time in conversations and trying to build that calibration and consistency across classrooms, because everybody will be on the same page. Which will be happening in the fall. We've already been able to train our southern schools this spring. I'm going to steal a proficiency example from Joe DeVonis. It's one of my favorites that I've heard him use in conversations about grading. And I think this gets to that decaying average piece. What the decaying average is supposed to do is to allow a student to not be penalized for early attempts toward proficiency. So for example, we try to learn to parallel park. Your first few attempts at parallel parking are not going to be that great, especially in Vermont, where you don't have to do it very often and you haven't even seen your family members do it very often. So we expect you to score a 1 or a 2 in your first attempts to parallel park. But the more that you do it, the more times you practice, the more proficient you get at it. And by the time you get to your driving test, you know how to parallel park. Well, if you get a score for your driving test on parallel parking, you don't want them to go back and average those 1s in with your 4s and have them count the same weight towards your average, because ultimately what really matters is, can you parallel park? Are you safe to do it? Can you go out into the community? Are we worried about you hitting other people's cars? No, we're not. You've got it. You're proficient. In fact, you might even be a pro at it and be able to, get it in with a proper distance from the curb, exactly the way that it's supposed to with all the criteria. What the decaying average is supposed to do is not penalize you for those early attempts for proficiency and allow your final document, your final score, your final assessment to be weighted more heavily towards your overall score. I think, there's a lot of thought that went into that in trying to make sure that our system gives opportunities for children to try and to take risks and to learn new things, and that it honors their progress over time by providing more weight to where they are at the end of the process than where they started at the beginning. So it's different than a straight average in that way, but that's intentional by design, to try to support students and show what they've been able to accomplish with repeated attempts toward a standard.
Well, I'll respectfully disagree with you. And it's a lovely analogy, but it does not go to jump rope. And what we think jump rope does and should do is different in reality and what it does do. So are there any other questions, comments on the conversion scale? What is the pleasure of the board with the conversion scale?
I think we should proceed with it. I mean, we can always look at tweaking it as the discussion continues, but it at least gives us a basis to go by, so I would approve it.
Motion by Lynette. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Seth. Tina? You have a question?
I feel uncomfortable with it. I don't know. I still feel uncomfortable with it. I just wanted to state that, I guess.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ready?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to oppose it.
I will also vote nay. So 2 in opposition.
3,
3 in opposition.
as it stands.
Any other opposed? Motion passes by majority.
Lisa, if I could, that doesn't mean we're not going to continue the discussion though, correct?
Well, I will say at this point, Lynette, it was really a piece of housekeeping, because if you have a child that's a senior, they've already been assigned to this without any conversation or comment from this board, and transcripts already went out. So,
okay, I understand.
I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I'm using it in my no vote.
Okay.
But yes, I think that the conversation needs to continue. I think that from a high school perspective, I think that we don't weight AP courses, and that's not on here is problematic as well. So I think there's a lot to discuss, but I think we have a lot of pieces personally for proficiency that we need to clean up. We need to be completely in the proficiency court. And I feel like that personally, I feel like all of, and particularly Corey Valley, that we are not. We're still pulling pieces off. And I think it's problematic for teachers. I think it's hard when you have new teachers come in. I just think that there's so many different things going on, and that makes it difficult for students, and it makes it tough for assessments. And I think we talk about things here, and everyone has the best of intentions, and you're following what the premise and the purpose of proficiency is. But I think when we leave, sometimes it's not always being translated the way the conversations have taken place here. And I think personally, I think that's where the work needs to go. And I realize this is an ongoing, and this is a lot. I mean, I'm sure Joe DeBonis would say that, just switching over and doing this has been a real undertaking for their school. And I look at Proctor, and we were kind of at the forefront of this, and I still feel like we have a lot of work to do. So I think it's always going to be a conversation. I don't think, I don't know. I think the state didn't give a lot of clarity on things, and we have a lot of options to do things, and it's making everybody come to consensus. So,
well, I understand. Yep. The only reason that I voted for it or made the motion is there's been a lot of 12th graders or 8th graders that have moved on while I've been debating this. And Rutland Town has been extremely vocal about this for a number of years. And I don't see it. I guess right now it's better than nothing, but I'm far from pleased with it. Let's put it that way.
Right. I think it's a step that we have a scale for the SU. I think that is a big step for us. And now to refine and define this is where the work comes, in my opinion. And I certainly hear what Tina's saying about, if teachers are only giving a 3, but you're giving a scale, and parents are saying, well, if a 4 is possible, why aren't you giving my child the work to work towards a 3.8 or a 4? Why are you saying they can only receive a 3? And I think in the beginning, I know at Rutland Town, when we were the old SU, we talked about this, that, when Adam came and said, you just have to get a 3. As long as you get a 3, you're proficient. The minute you say that to a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, boom, for a significant amount, the work ends. Of course, you have that, group that's going to say, keep going and going and going. But for a lot of kids, if that's the threshold, then once they make it, then they're done. So, and I think that was the biggest mistake when that kind of mantra came out about proficiency in the beginning, in my opinion. But I'm sure we'll continue on. So, and maybe it's something we'll, make a committee with Lisa and a couple board members or something like that as we go forward. All right. Any other old business to come before the board? New business. So board meeting returned to in person. This was something Chris and I kind of spoke about, and I think Greg might be here. The hope is at some point we'll be able to return to in person, but still allow it to be in real time for the public to join us without being, let's say, in the meeting place. The thought was that we would retrofit Middletown Springs, Rutland Town, and then the SU conference room for Quarry Valley and the SU. It just makes the most sense rather than, particularly for Quarry Valley, having it in each building and moving things. That just didn't seem to make a lot of sense. So is there any objection to starting to move into that direction, or does everybody really love this format?
Just to clarify, Lisa, just because I'm pretty sure it's there. We just didn't specifically mention it, but not only public, obviously board members, should there be, I don't know, a mild illness or a schedule conflict, to be able to also still just be here virtually as well, even if the rest of the quorum was together in person?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of a piece of it. So if you travel, if you had a sick kid or whatever, that you could still join from wherever you are. Absolutely. No, Seth, if you're sick, we're not going to let you join. We're just going to make you stay away.
I may have more frequent bouts of illness then. That's wonderful.
All right. So is Greg, are you here?
Yeah. I just wanted to point out that if you're not taking a laptop and pointing webcams and microphones at people, and you want to do things like PEG TV does, that's 20 grand of equipment. So, to have 20 microphones for everyone and to have a professional camera and so on and so forth. If you do an impromptu, like I show up, I record it into my laptop, stream it while everyone is in person, it is going to have limitations. Like, I'm not going to grab a camera that they're using for athletics at Rutland Town, just, to do the board meeting, it's like, you just have to manage your expectations if you do a hybrid model. If everyone's in person, then fine, doesn't matter. But if you want to do both, it's just how much do you want to spend and how well do you want it to look? If you want to just get it passable, then we don't have the requirement that kind of came out when we tried to do that at the town, which was everyone was spaced apart. We didn't have enough microphones. I was using a webcam, and it came out kind of unprofessional because it is unprofessional. I was using the equipment that I had. It's just how do you want it to look, and how long are we going to do hybrid meetings? So that's the question I have, which is.
So I would think we would continue hybrid on for going forward. I know that most municipalities are going this path because it does allow the public the flexibility of joining or board members. So I know, like here in my community, we're purchasing the cameras, we're purchasing all of the things. A neighboring community is doing the same. If that's one thing we've learned from the pandemic, is that this allows more access to meetings, to board members, to ideas, to everything. And I don't think that's something that we want to do away with. We want people to continue to be involved. So it would be my hope that we would do it so it did look professional, that we would purchase equipment that is going to have a high quality, and that we would, continue this on. If, there's inclement weather and people can't travel and only 5 people are there and the other people, I think that's, the one thing we've learned about technology through the pandemic. So that would be my thought. Others?
Well, coming from the old school and being a new board member again, I always enjoyed sitting in a meeting so Lynette could tell me where I was wrong. and me to tell her the same thing. But this is pretty efficient. You know, I'm not going to say you're not sitting there in your skivvies and your flip flops, but you can't really do that at a regular meeting. And you can get 30 people on here pretty quick without buying any more equipment. So just, I like this. I'll do whatever.
Is there a chance Peg TV would come back in person, and are they capable of streaming?
Well, that's a question.
I don't know. And I know, like, here at the municipality, when they contacted them, they did not have a time frame when they would be interested in coming back. Do people want to stay with this format? I mean, I think when you have... Go ahead. I'm sorry, Meredith. Meredith? Go ahead, Meredith.
Sorry. It certainly saves a lot of time, and like people coming from Wells, you know, they're looking at 45-minute drive each way. I'm looking at a half-hour drive each way. Makes it a lot easier to attend many more meetings. And when you're somewhere else, you can still attend when you're not here. So I'm really in favor of keeping this and thinking about the potential of buying some equipment for those who if you really feel like you're going to get 5 or a half a dozen people to show up in an in-person meeting, but you're then going to have somebody to operate that equipment. So that's, you know, it's not just a plug it in and you're all set.
Right. Lynette?
I want to discuss it, of course, with my board because I don't feel comfortable speaking with them. I think it has to be one way or the other. Either you're in person or we continue this. And Greg is right. It's totally almost impossible to do a hybrid and know exactly what's going on. At least this way, we see who's raising their hands. We see who's at the meetings. We can hear them. They can see us. Or go totally in person. And like you said, those are problems. When someone's on vacation, they're not going to be able to meeting, period. Whereas if we continue with this, they can pop on either by telephone or their laptop and continue. So I just don't feel comfortable myself saying anything until we bring it to the board. What do you think?
I agree with you. I'm calling from Dartmouth right now. My daughter's in the hospital, and I wouldn't have been able to make the meeting tonight if it were in person. So I do like this flexibility. I think we get a lot more of the public on. I do think it increases access. I do, and I know that Debbie had offered to print out the packets, but I think that if we were given physical packets like we would have been if we were in person, that would also be helpful if desired, if there was an easy way to get access to that, just because there's so much paperwork and sometimes highlighting it on paper makes it easier to refer to it during the meeting. I originally liked in person because you see a little bit more body language and whatnot, but I feel like you kind of have gotten used to the body language as time's gone on through Google or Zoom, and it's really not that big of a deal. And I do like the access for everyone.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, I'm in favor of this in-person and hybrid model. I guess it's the same for me. There might be days where it's easier just to log in, but I do like the in-person. But I also, and I might be wrong about this, I believe part of the reason why we're able to do these meetings remote is because of the last year with the temporary suspension of open meeting laws. And I don't know if they changed that and made it permanent or if it's going to go back. And if it does go back, then I don't think it would I don't know if it's going to be an option, and that might be where I'm wrong. I'm not 100% sure, but
An option if it can be hybrid, you mean?
yeah, we would have to have, a majority in person.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Meredith?
I guess I didn't put my hand down, sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you had something else. Mike?
I've had a little experience with open meeting laws. The law doesn't say you actually have to be in person. The law says the public has to have access, and there needs to be a recording of the meeting.
So do people want to go back to their boards and discuss and then come back to the June meeting and have some kind of decision there? Or do people just want to stay with this format?
Well, Rutland Town won't meet until after our June meeting for Grcsu, so I wouldn't be able to tell you anything. Chris, how does it work for you? Is it a lot easier? You're the one with the majority of meetings. Which is easier for you?
Well, I'm at the office regardless, but just it'd save, driving down, Middletown or Wells, save another half hour, 45 minutes. But I'll do either. If in person's fine, if there's an in person or the hybrid model, I will be in person as much as possible. The only thing would be if there'd be like inclement weather or else, but I would be in person at that meeting, so I wouldn't be calling in, with the exception of maybe a committee meeting. But board meetings, I would be in person as much as I could.
So let's think about it, maybe send it out to your board members and have them think about it. And we'll keep it on the agenda and have people put it on their local board agendas to discuss. And come July 1, not July 1, but in July, we'll discuss it at our SU meeting. Does that work for everyone? And at this
Also,
point, we'll
Lisa-
just continue with this format.
Also, Lisa, I could put together a quote for a professional, a case full of professional equipment that would be equivalent to PEG TV's broadcast level equipment. I could put together a quote just to give you guys an idea of what number we're talking about, and I think we only need one. Simultaneous meetings we'll have to worry about, but I don't see each district spending money. It's just not a good cost thing for each district to spend professional level broadcast equipment. I mean, I think we could disperse it throughout the districts, but at least I can have a quote in your hand so that you can know what doing a professional hybrid model would look like.
All right, that sounds great. And maybe in the interim, we can follow up. Maybe you could follow up, Greg, with PEG TV and see maybe what their standard is to come back, if they, intend to come back, or because I know a lot of the people that used to come and record were older, so I don't know what that is, but maybe you could follow up on that and report that back when you provide the quote to us in July. Would that work?
Will do.
Great. Thank you very much. All right.
Lisa,
Yes.
can I ask to kind of flip the next two that we discussed, tuition payments first? We have Bill Ellis, who is our attorney, is on the call, and so just out of respect for him, that we could maybe just Bill doesn't need to sit and listen to our summer academic enrichment, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
So Lynette had asked to put this on the agenda, and this is this impacts three of our boards: the IRA, Wellsprings, and the Rutland Town, particularly around the school choice option, since we, those three districts do not have a high school option for our students, or a junior, senior high school. So most of you are familiar with the Valente case, Valente versus French, which basically is centered around the tuition payments to religious institutions, which kind of was born out of the Espinoza versus Montana case, which in a 5-4 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court basically ruled that the state of Montana cannot exclude a religious school from receiving tax credits funded scholarships from its school choice program. And I guess basically what that did was established a uniform standard of interpretation for state no-aid provisions. And so that's kind of how this kind of came about, this lawsuit, where we did have a plaintiff from Rutland Town who was also named in this Valente case, where the State Board of Education has ruled that we must pay this tuition. But I think moving forward, based upon the recommendation received from Bill, and Bill's here to, if there's anything I missed, Bill, you can obviously fill in, also answer any questions. But the recommendation really for our 3 districts moving forward is to, upon parent request, is to pay the tuition, the student tuition, as long as there's a letter that was drafted, which we will share with the boards at their individual board meetings as well. So, Bill, you want to add to that? I know I kind of rushed through it, but
you summed it up nicely, Chris. I really don't have much to add in a public session.
Okay.
If there's some questions, I'll try to answer them without divulging any attorney-client communication or work product.
Correct. Okay, thanks. So there's more just kind of an update. I think if there are questions that we can answer in an open session, great. But if not, we'd have to move to an executive session later on. Okay.
What is the pleasure of the board? Do board members have questions that they would like us to move into executive session so you could ask? Do members
believe
from
Rutland Town is up to date on it. So we're just not going to say either way. I mean, we don't have any questions. We're up to date on it because we were named in a lawsuit. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm
guess
a little bit like Switzerland here because this doesn't impact Corey Valley. So that's why
I would
leaving it to
say Wells Springs is probably kind of interested in what this means because obviously we're a choice district. So can we move into an executive session to better understand the...
Yeah, before we do that, I have one
particular-
question.
Yes, Mike.
Does that include only in-state or in-district? For example, if somebody wanted to go to something, say, in Well or in Granville, does that apply or not? I just don't know how that works.
With regard to go ahead, Bill.
The state statute allows tuition payments to be made to certified schools inside or outside the state or even outside the country.
Thank you.
And I apologize, Meredith. Unfortunately, Clarence was on top of this. I don't think he had a chance because it's been relatively up soon since he's learned about it. I don't think he had a chance to update you guys on it.
Yeah, that's why we need to understand this a little bit better.
What is there we need to talk about that requires an executive session is my concern.
Mike, there might be some questions that are asked that violate the attorney-client privilege. Since it is a case involving Rutland Town, it is centered around this. So
it's legal.
It's legal.
Classified under legal. Okay. Thank you.
Issue, yes.
Presently, the supervisory union is a defendant in this case. So I would be protecting attorney-client privilege. I have moved to dismiss the supervisory union from the case because it's the local school districts that have the responsibility to make the tuition payments. And since they have now been brought into the case, there's no reason for the supervisory union to remain named as a defendant.
So would it make more sense to have Bill attend the Wild Springs meeting and perhaps have a executive session at that meeting, or have a special meeting with the Wellspring Board so existing members could be brought up to speed? Eric or Meredith, do you think
I
that?
think that would be appropriate.
But I think as long as we're in the as long as we're in the case, that the greater board should understand what's going on too. Even though it hasn't been dismissed yet, so technically we're still part of it, right?
That's correct, Mike.
Mary, you have a question?
Yeah, from Ira, having school choice, I would certainly like to hear more. And, I don't know if Bill wants to attend all these small, local board meetings. So.
Okay, so what is the pleasure of the board? You want to go into executive session now, dismiss everyone, and invite principals back in 10 minutes to talk about enrichment? Do you want to have Bill join us? Let's deal with principals and have him come back and join us at, let's say, 7:45. What do you think the easier piece is here?
To be honest, Lisa, I think we can go in executive session. It won't take long to spit out exactly what it is concerning. It just took a long process to get where we are. So I would make a motion we go in executive session for contracts or legal advice.
I'll second it.
Okay. And so we're going to excuse, all those in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
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 So we're going into executive session at 7:28 for legal, and we're going to excuse everyone except the board, Chris, Lisa, and the attorney. And then we will.
Lewis should be in there as well, Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Lewis. Okay.
And if we expect to come back in 15 minutes, they can come back, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll expect principals to come back, let's say 7:45. And if we come out early, we can move on to something else before they come back. Okay? So we are out of executive session by consensus at 7:48, and most of the principals have joined us. So everybody, you have a printout in, I have
Yes,
the
I'll share
luxury
it
of
as
having
well.
a packet, so I keep saying you have a printout because I had intended to be at a ball game tonight, so I'd gone to get a printout. But I'm guessing, this is a PowerPoint. So, all right, I will shut up and.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Not for shutting up, but thank you for passing over to me. So I just want to clarify. So we've been asked, I'll just go to the next slide here. So as part of our GRCSU recovery plan, in response to the impact that COVID has had on our students, families, communities, the GRCSU administrator and staff have really been working very hard the past couple weeks, months, to really take a look at what our summers will look like for our students. And so they spent a lot of time kind of just, addressing different areas of needs and just, and really have put together an expanded list of enrichment programs, academic programs for our kids. I do want to add, obviously, first of all, I want to thank, staff members who have volunteered to work during the summer. Obviously, they'll be paid. They're paid volunteers, but still, we are coming off the end of a difficult year, a long year, a challenging year. And you will see that in certain buildings, there might be more programs offered than in others. And it is a result of staffing. And in no ways is this a condemnation of staff. I think staff, have earned the right to have time off, to, relax, come back refreshed for next fall. But like I said, we did have a large number of staff members across the SU who really kind of stepped up this summer and said that they would be willing to help out and do what they can over the summer to continue to work with our kids. As I said before, it's meant to provide kids with engaging, enriching experiences this summer. We've also discussed the potential or possibility of looking at what this might look like for breaks, whether or not, if this works out well, that if we have an opportunity to, over say a fall, the winter break, the spring breaks, having some more enrichment opportunities for our kids, not just non-academic, but just, almost like a camp experience for our students, just to provide them an opportunity to get out of the house, continue their learning. So continue working with our staff, our kids. So with that, the last point, I'm sorry, is all the programs are funded through ESSER funds. So, we did look at local funds for this, but we realized, as well, Senator Sanders had made it very clear that, that this is one of the main focus for him, at least in terms of ESSER funds for the summer, is provide just the programming. So I did ask the administrators to give up an evening here tonight to kind of go through, because as we talk about each school, they can better answer any questions you might have, or just give you a bit of an overview. But like I said, I just want to kind of just give a brief overview of just the process, as well as why you might see just some differences amongst the schools. So we'll start off with, let me just get it back up to the tab. We've got Rick, Middletown Springs, please.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to start thinking about a summer program again after not having something last summer. Back in March, I surveyed the parents to get a sense of what the needs were or interests for a summer program this summer. In the past, we've had a 3-day-a-week, 4-week program. There's definitely much more interest in having a 5-day, 5-week program running to 4:30. So we've developed a program, K through 6, a 5-week, Monday through Friday, and it's a full-day program. We'll be starting in July. Very excited about this. The morning's going to be academic enrichment and great project-based, a lot of hands-on, high-interest math and literacy activities. Very fortunate, 2 of my teachers and 1 of my IAs will be running the program this summer. Then in the afternoon, there'll be a theme for each week. And from the survey results from the parents, they're just very much interested in having a program where the kids can be kids, socializing, and just having fun and these really enriching activities. And that's what we're planning for this summer. We're also doing a pre-K 4-week, Monday through Friday half-day program. And once again, just to keep up the skills that we've been working on, this will be for our current pre-K students. And at this time, we basically have almost half of our students signed up for the programs. And so I'm really excited, and I think it's going to be a great summer for the students.
Mike, do you have a question?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't take my hand down.
Okay. Any questions for Rick about his overview? All right, thank you. Sounds exciting.
So Kristen's not here tonight. I'll try to take care of hers for her. I'll do the best I can with it. Polteny Elementary, they're doing their summer enrichment program in a 4-day a week. And I know Kristen had we talked a little bit yesterday. Their academic time is in the morning. They're providing breakfast and lunch, and then having some enrichment time in the afternoon. I'll go to that next slide there, Chris. So as you can see here, it's small group in reading and math, be assessed through the Track My Progress. They're going to have the SEL and behavior coach will be there as well, and they'll do stuff through PBIS for the social emotional learning. She does have, if you click on the link there, one of her IAs, Todd Montana, is working on an outdoor program with the kids, and that was his proposal there. I don't know if it's going to open up or not. Plus with Polteny, we have our rec department has historically done a great program for that. And so a lot of our students, basically some go K through 8. A lot of my high school students work the rec program, work with the younger kids as well. So we heard the news about a month ago that the buildings could be open again for the rec department, for regular usage, summer usage. That was great news for the rec department to get in there and keep some of these programs going this year, because they obviously canceled everything last year.
Okay.
For us at the high school, we have our credit recovery program. We've had this program for a while now. It's an online program that the kids use. We have a staff member that's available for help that oversees it, and they are available for help. What we usually do is, obviously, again, we didn't do it last year, but open the building 2 days a week, where the students can come in and sometimes they just need to come into the building to actually do the work. Other times it's just there just to help people. It's a work at their own pace, and that's what we're doing with that. For our enrichment opportunities, again, we talked about the rec program. I was working with the Corey Valley people, Jonas Rosenthal, who was our previous town manager for like 30 plus years. He is still working with the rec department. There was a grant that the rec department was trying to work through with me, or me and Kristen, through the schools. I was really hoping to try to, the rec department, the town had to go with like a school or an organization to order to apply for this grant, and I have not heard back yet whether we got the grant or not. But one of the things I talked to him about with our Slate Valley trails right here in the area, if we could get some bikes, would love to get some kayaks to go down to the lake and stuff like that, and have an outdoor program. The I don't want to call it life skills, but the lifelong learning things that the kids can do with their the town of Polteny, for those of you who don't know, we just spent this winter, they went through and had another grant. We were like one of 16 towns throughout the country to get this grant to work on like an outdoor recreation area with the Slate Valley trails now. So if we got all this stuff right here in our backyard, and how great would it be for our kids just to hop on the bikes at the school, and they can hop on the trails with our block scheduling. They can do that, or have an after school program. So like I said to Jonas, for us, it's the hard part is getting once you get the equipment, it's that upfront cost, and then you can replace a bike or replace some helmets or something like that throughout the years. It's it's not a big thing, but trying to get 10 or 12 of them right off top is a thing. And Proctor High School, which you'll see in a little bit here from Joanne, but they graciously offered their programs throughout the Corey Valley. So I've already had a couple parents ask me about that. We set that information out, so we appreciate all that, the programs that they're having.
All right, good evening. So for Proctor Elementary School, we're still coordinating lots of things, but this is kind of the skeleton of what we're doing so far. So we are going to offer a summer academy to all students at no cost on July 6th through August 6th. I have a classroom teacher who's the site coordinator and will also be the primary contact person and a tutor. Currently, we have 5 confirmed tutors. We have 53 students enrolled as of today. Looking for a couple more tutors just so it can actually be, smaller groups. We're looking at like a 1-to-6 ratio, hopefully. We do have 2 paraeducators that are going to come back and do a library enrichment and an art enrichment. And I'm looking for an assistant. We have a couple of students that need one-on-one, so we need to hire assistants. So right now as a school, we're working on concepts in math and literacy that can be the target skills. So classroom teachers are going in, logging in, writing up what they feel is the primary target skills, so that way the tutors have that information when they begin instruction. I put a tentative schedule at the bottom. Students will provide breakfast and lunch. It'll be a bag lunch to go. On the next slide, you can see we have been working for the last 2 years with the Rainbow it's actually REINBO, Rainbow Riding Horseback Center. It's a therapeutic program. And in the past, what we've done is taken students there for horseback riding lessons. They learn so many different things bigger than just horseback riding lessons. I mean, how to treat animals, you know, they go through lots of different things. So we haven't been able to do that because of COVID. And in the fall, they came to the school, they brought a horse to the school, and allowed the students that had previously worked with them kind of demonstrate what we do if we were at their ranch. And they're able to take us back. So we're going to offer that to some students once a week. I have my school counselor and school nurse that will be chaperoning students and driving them to the facility. I also have my school counselor coming in twice a week to do some homeschool coordinating, social emotional learning groups with students. And we've always offered a summer tapestry. So this is a program from 8 to 5:30. All students are eligible to attend. It does cost families, but there's a sliding scale and there's lots of subsidy that can be offered to students. So I've been working closely with Tapestry just because our academy program does overlap with Tapestry. So we're, you know, ironing out the details of that. But I will say we probably have 75 to 80 kids between both programs that are coming to the school. So it's like 3/4 of our kids. And then any students that are eligible for extended school year process through the IEP are coming to school. So we're covering a pretty good majority of our students this summer. And I'm very happy that parents are willing to do this because it's a big commitment on getting them here and things like that. So I think it's a necessity and I'm very appreciative of that. So that's our program.
Great. And I know Joanne had to step out. I do believe, Alina, you are here to talk about Proctor Junior Senior High School's offerings, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alina. I'm one of the teachers at Proctor High School. We have a whole bunch of teachers volunteering to run kind of like camp-like programs. So they vary in length depending on what the program is. But you can see here, so the first one that's listed there called Mr. Robot, for that students, it's open to grades 7 through 12. They'll build a 5-foot robot that moves, and it's a segue into a club that's going to be started up in the fall. Band music programs were really impacted negatively by COVID this year because of all the restrictions. So our music teacher is going to be offering a summer band program so students can reacclimate themselves with their instruments. The social emotional learning camp is for students to develop their leadership skills, creativity, and problem solving. The babysitting course is for the incoming 7th and 8th graders, and they will learn the basic skills for young children, including CPR and behavior management. The acting skills is also open grades 7 through 12. They'll learn about acting, movement, directing, dialects, and other aspects of performing. And then I think there's more. Yep. The summer tennis camp, again, open to, it's got ages on there, but it's the same kind of thing. The middle and high school students, and they will be learning skills and playing tennis. And typically we have a tennis club, so those students will be participating, but any other students who are interested in tennis can also participate. The next two are both different versions of outdoor adventure programs. The first one is hiking, canoeing, fishing, outdoor activities, all while integrating science. And then the adaptive summer nature camp is specifically for students with challenges. So it's similar in nature, but it's specifically designed to be tailored for students who have some more significant challenges so that they can still experience outdoor stuff. And then finally, the Esports Camp is open again to incoming grades 9 through 12. And we're especially for that program welcoming students from West Rutland and from Poultney who want to join. The idea is this summer we would be learning about all of the components of computers, building the computers, the gaming computers, and then set up an esports program that could continue into next school year. So it would be really the summer would be the foundational part for that. And I'm the go-to on that one. So ask me if you have questions about the esports.
Hi, everyone. I will talk about what we have this summer at Rutland Town School. So summer school is offered from our local budget. We do that every year for students in grades K through 7. Students are recommended by their classroom teachers and they attend with parental approval. So they may attend for skills development or work completion. We have summer school for 3 weeks from 9 to noon, and teachers will have some prep time built within that day as well. We also are fortunate to have summer Tapestry here, which is always well attended. So that runs through June 28th through August 13th, and that's open for students in grades K through 6. We don't have tutoring services available through Tapestry because we're not a Title I school. But again, we do offer summer school that's funded through our local budget, so it's free to all families. And we also offer extended school year services for students that qualify that are on IEPs.
Good evening, everybody. At the Wells Village School, we are very excited to have a summer program back. And so our program will be an 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, July 7th through August 6th. For students in kindergarten through 5th grade, with a focus on academics in the morning, project-based learning, lots of hands-on activities. Afternoon, folks were meeting today to discuss more of the details about what they'll be doing with thematic weeks, which will be forthcoming to families to have a calendar as we get closer. We are going to be offering, just as well as Middletown, an opportunity for our currently enrolled pre-K students, the same days of the week, and July 7th through August 6th, we're going to be doing the half-day schedule. And we are fortunate that the staff has been with us all year for our after-school program as well. So they'll be using the VEL standards that we've been using for developmentally appropriate activities, as well as following with thematic weeks. And we have, our enrollment is increasing daily. So we're really excited to be able to offer this. You know, Wells is going through some changes with some of our availability for younger students. So we're thankful that we can offer this age group as well as our K through 5 kids.
Good evening, everybody. At West Rutland, we've divided up our programming from elementary and also secondary. We have a very large Tapestry program that has been in existence for a number of years. But on top of that, this year we are doing a summer academic. We've actually increased our number of tutors for K to 6, and I've listed some of the details there. It is our hope that many of our students will end up staying after for Tapestry as well. What we did was about a month ago, I reached out to the teachers, and they had a spreadsheet that they had to fill out of students that were they felt would benefit from this. And then we reached out to families to try to get as many families to sign their children up for our K to 6 program this year. Just like the other schools, breakfast and lunch will be provided. Switching to the high school, we have an opportunity for students in grades 7 through 12 to meet their proficiencies. If they do not, we have a locally funded summer school program that runs through the end of this fiscal year. And I will admit, we were getting into a little bit of having some issues trying to find folks who wanted to work this summer for the enrichment for the secondary. And when Proctor so graciously, and those are a great offering of enrichment, produced that fell into our laps, and we are promoting it. Alina, thank you for the esports too. I've got to get that out to my families because I think we would have a number of people who might be interested in that. As many of the other schools, we're going to have extended school year services this summer also. So it will be, West Rutland, like the other schools, is pretty much busy every day all year. So pretty excited about what we have coming this summer for our students.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Are there any questions for administrators?
All right, thank you. It sounds like an exciting summer. Some of the programs I think I'd like to attend. Tina, you have a question?
More just a comment. Seeing some of the other options at some of the other schools, it would be nice if Rutland Town had some enrichment type things too. Just wanted to make a note of that. So I also understand that it's hard finding staffing. So I know there's like that balance, but it would be nice if that's something we could look at future summers.
So Tina, I agree with you. I think that's something we've talked about before is while this year understand the circumstances, but moving forward, we really would like to see summers, like I said, we have a great amount of offerings in all of our schools around enrichment programs. I think it's a huge opportunity for us to continue the learning in a variety of ways, particularly experiential and just, in fun hands-on learning. So I think while this summer, like I said, we have staff who are just exhausted and tired and understand, but I think moving forward, this is something which we'd like to see every summer is just to have these great opportunities for our kids. Because I know that as a parent, I know that camp opportunities are few and far between outside of going away for overnight camp. So any opportunity for our kids to have to get back to school and just do something fun and engaging and enriching, I think would be a huge bonus for us. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too that it's really great that Rick got out in front and maybe Liz, it's find out what the community really needs. This is such a time crunch, all this money and I think next summer you'll have a better opportunity to build, a more vibrant program and really determine what your community wants you to do.
Yeah, I think everything sounds great. Our building principals, and particularly after the year we've had, this is just one more thing, and I think it's a great foundation, Tina, and hopefully we can build from it. And even in communities where we have enrichment, maybe as we go forward to next year, reach out and incorporate our local community partners, seeing how it goes this year. I think the more buy-in we have, the better. And our objective is to, give our kids enriching opportunities. That's what we're here for. So thank you all very much for that presentation. Moving on, the next item is ESSER funds proposal.
Christine, did you want to discuss that first?
I can start, Lisa. So this is another piece of the ESSER funding, a position I kind of briefly, I think, brought it forward at the board the last meeting, but just to have an SEL coach who can work with staff and our teachers in their classrooms, and how do we manage the students' social, emotional, and behavioral needs within the classroom setting too, and giving that support to staff to keep our students engaged in the classroom and present in the classroom. It's something that I think if we do the coaching with our teachers, if we do the coaching with our special educators, our guidance counselors in the building, and teach them the skills, the strategies, then we have the capacity within our own staff to sustain this long after when ESSER funds are not available to do this. So looking at it through the grant program, we did put a proposal in there, kind of with the goal of it and what it would look like and what the needs of it are. Lisa, anything you want to add to that? And actually it goes along with our proposal that went to the state for our recovery funds. That was part of the SEL portion of that, and the team that worked on that and coming out with some of the needs within that.
You did a nice job. That's a great overview, Christine, but we're happy to answer any questions that we can.
Questions, comments?
So you're looking to this position as a coach
Yes.
for the whole SU?
It would, at this point, it would be a support to the whole SU. I know that's a lot of territory and a lot of staff and a lot to cover. But that's where I think we have to start and build that capacity and spread it out. Some of our buildings do have some support in that area. In Eric, I'm waiting to hear. We're supposed to and hoping to get some additional Idea B funds coming, but they haven't released that yet or told us what that is. That I would like to hopefully be able to add another spot with that. But that would be specific and have to be utilized just for students and supporting teachers and supporting students who do have an IEP, where this would be for all students because it's through the ESSER funds. But we have to start somewhere to build our capacity within our buildings to really at that tier 1 level.
Are you looking for us to take action on this tonight?
If that's possible, to be able to put it out and advertise, yes, for that position. It is included within the original, I think, budget of funding that was the ESSER 2 funds.
Okay.
What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and fill this position, advertise for it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So do we still need to talk about Idea B?
That was just I included in that. That's the annual every year for the Idea B funds, the LEAP assurances, which just is board chair Lisa signs that, Chris signs it, just saying that we will use the funds and according to the rules that govern them. So that's just the assurances we have to provide when we submit the new Idea B grant, which we'll be doing before the end of June, because that'll go into effect July 1st.
Okay. Any other new business to come before the board? If not, we have executive session for personnel on the agenda.
Not anymore. That individual did not show up, so we're fine.
Okay. Spectacular. Anything else to come before the board? All right. Our next meeting is June 23rd. And a motion would be in order to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
And I will take your vote by seeing you disappear on my screen.
Thank you, everybody, for all you're doing.
Could I bring
Have a great night.
Good night.
Eric, do you have 2 seconds to Mary?
Yeah.
Did Mary leave?
Thank you. Have a good night.
I think we lost
I
Mary.
think she did.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.